We're back here at the Overwatch Beat Invitational, where there was a part of me that wanted to say, actually, we're not ready to come back, put the timer back up, go back to the old school era of just debating you, thinking that you're going to be back. I'm not, but guess what? We are back, so that is good news to say the least. We are heading into our second lower bracket game of the day. It's going to be the GOATs. Yes, that GOATs going up against NRG, a team that I would say for online tournaments has definitely had a pretty rough go in Overwatch history.
Yeah, and I'm just going to make a quick preface to this matchup. I'm just going to amend when I say GOATs, I'm now going to say 3-3 because otherwise it would just get way too confusing. That's something that I have noticed. I've casted this team quite a bit. We've seen this matchup even specifically quite a few times. We've seen it last season in Beat where GOATs got the upper end of the deal. And of course, as we continued through to Pit, it was slowly it went back in favor of NRG, where at the end of Pit Season 3, in the final, we saw NRG taking that 3-0, so a full swing. And now this is, two very different, distinctly different teams. There's not much carryover in terms of who is on both teams at the time, in that era, now continuing to this one. So there's going to be a lot of changes, but I think one thing that isn't going to be changing all too much, of course, is going to be the compositions that get run. And of course, the one that I'm mentioning fully is the 3-3, again, as we amended that naming for the nomenclature for this particular matchup so we don't confuse everybody.
Well, this is a totally different NRG team, with the
Yeah,
exception of Smex
totally
overall,
new GOATs team as well.
compared to the NRG team of last season. But also to your previous point, I have no shame. The viewer is just gonna have to follow along. Where look, we have goats playing goats against the goats of NRG. What? You guys know what I'm talking about. It's totally fine. But goats of course is a 3-3 triple tank triple support setup that was popularized by the team goats, which is why it's called GOATs. Barnyard animals really defining Overwatch play in the year of our Lord 2018. However, as we take a look at both teams setting up here in Dorado, we don't have GOATs in play. The GOATs have been sent back to the barn as it will. It's going to be NRG here first on the defense, and probably one of the most notable swap-ups here is that Poise is not in on the roster today. They got Pugs in instead.
Yeah, and it's the guy from No Clout, Pugs, coming in, and I mean, if I'm looking at this, I'm thinking that they're really going to want to see Kevster on Widowmaker a lot because Pugs is going to allow for them to play that Sombra role and not have Kevster on it as much. So I think what we're going to see here a lot of the time is going to be Kevster on Widowmaker and Pugs maybe making a swap or two, but I think predominantly it's going to be the Sombra. So as we look to this, it's going to be the Genji as opposed to the Sombra, intel versus aggression to start this off.
Also, for the man-to-man story here, you have ladder hero Kevster versus ladder hero Boostio, both playing Widowmaker. This is actually the most high-head competitive ladder setup you could ever get of Widow please carry team. We'll see which of these two players runs out ahead in the end here, as NRG is playing this a bit further back.
And of course, Pugs is just going to play for intel, as we've already mentioned, a few times here. And as we see him going back in, he's going to be able to start suppressing Boostio to some degree, where Naga's not going to be able to have that same. Oh, they detect him, and Tinsa quick on the uptake. Actually throws Pugs back, so no intel now.
Kevster going to get chunked a little bit by Boostio, going team, please heal. Goes back away from the fountain, looking for another shot. Not deciding to go to the upper archway. I think because of what he's up against here, doesn't want to make himself an obvious target to Boostio. Boostio, though, striking, getting Byram down early on. Nomi out, both ones out of play, and with Boostio getting that pick off, Goats is now working with a tremendous advantage. They're going to nano boost the D.Va here by a little bit of time, but so far hasn't quite worked out here at all for NRG.
Well, now that they have that infra site as well, they'll be able to start telling where Pugs is and his positioning. So he's just going to have to completely rotate out of this fight, as we do see Goats looking to try to capture this. They do wind up getting it without any recontest at all. Oh,
that's a yikes. That is a pause, please. And Tifa
how close was he to
right there on the ball. Just to be clear, so we're going to go back to some old school memes here. Is that there was a incident in the early Beat tournament where a real life emergency happened for our admin in the middle of it, and there was a longer pause. And of course, totally understandable when you have something like that come up. But chat decided to go, this tournament more rigged than FIFA. Admin must be Tifa, but no, our admin is directly on the ball here this time. We got the immediate pause, so props to Tifa here today.
Tifa's been great all weekend. I mean, not
Yes.
even just, today. I was watching a lot of it back yesterday and, obviously having access to the Discord. I mean, she's on top of everything, it seems. It's so unfortunate
Yes.
that she got a bad dealing on that FIFA meme
I,
because that's hilarious, by the way.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, you become the subject of a meme. But the meme is one of the top 5 memes in Overwatch history, right up there with, doing a certain action every time Rob420 administers Nano Boost. Not just Nano Boost, but Nano Boost all in caps, just to be clear. The good old
There's a
days.
lot of good ones. I mean, you certainly have all the standard owl ones as well. J Omega Lol KE. That's a given. But I think these more nuanced ones like the FIFA Tifa, that's you got to give some respect to that.
Well, the Jake one, Jake just became the universal symbol of Junkrat,
Yeah,
regardless. It's like,
right.
has Junkrat been. Really, any sentence that ends with Junkrat was an appropriate time for Twitch chat to mention Jake. Like, it didn't even matter. It's like, oh, they might run a Junkrat. Junkrat's not even picked. JLOLKE. Oh, they've picked Junkrat. A lot more JLOLKE. Junkrat gets a tire pickoff. There's actually just mountains and mountains of JLOLKE, but it all relates to Junkrat, period. So for people who are just wondering, it's like, why are we talking about this? We are filling a little bit of time here. It's NRG taking on Goats, and NRG just got absolutely crushed in the first fight here, and we're waiting for Tensa to reconnect for the Goat squad. So we do have a bit of a pause here. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and to come away from market like this with so much time on the clock, that's going to be a lot of momentum. But it's kind of taken away in a way because they don't have Tensa's ult charge anymore. And I was asking, I'm not sure exactly how far into his ult charge he was, but Tensa was in a lot of that fight, if not all of it. So he was probably at about, I would say, like 50, maybe 60%, if not higher, unless he wasn't really involved as much as I think he was. So to lose out on that, that's going to be very, very big, especially given the fact that, we're going to see probably a little bit more aggression here. Some, I guess, maybe reactive aggression, if that's even a thing, from Stand 1 and Kevster, who they're going to be playing into the Widow as much as they can, trying to enable that and maybe waiting out, biding their time to be able to react to Naga's Blade.
Well, we'll see just how Goats decide to go for it here. Certainly, they're working at an advantage. Smex, though, one of the best off-tanks in the game. Certainly a bright spot for NRG. We'll see what he does here. Has self-destruct up, but Naga going to go right to the back with the Nano Blade. Doesn't really get much of anything. The dive from NRG, way stronger. It derails the Goats here, and that is a big shift in momentum for the game.
And that was all on positioning too, right? I mean, NRG didn't really have to do much other than just kind of out-rotate. They left Hello Halo to die, and that's fine because they trade 2 ultimates for 1 body, and they're able to make that defense work.
So, NRG getting some badly needed stability here. We see Pug's secret agent
Find
Sombra in the back. No one knows where he is. He's just hiding in the back. Going for Bustio now. Early on a shot. Sets up Pugs. Gets the finish. Any little bit of damage is something Sombra can take advantage of, but Naga was camping the translocator. Punishes Pugs as soon as he comes back in, and Goat still with an opportunity here.
Maybe a good trade, especially as he has the positioning to deal with this Zenyatta as well.
Moving over. Naga takes down both supports, even as Stan was buying time. Goat's able to play this quite well, and now NRG in the hot seat. Specs, do you have a big self-destruct in you?
That was just the reflect kill too. I mean, Halo just let that happen to himself, but yeah, I'm definitely looking at that right now. Blade coming up pretty soon. Wavy already has the nano boost ready, but they're just kind of waiting around, allowing Nomi to get into position so that they can set up the soft dive up on top, maybe get a little bit more intel and also push them off the high ground, but that might not have too much effect against Diva.
Very casual nano boost on the stand there, not accompanied by an early jump in. A little bit discombobulated from NRG. Boostio already going to fight a pickoff, so now NRG really needing to get some form of equalizer here. You're down a player. Specs is in trouble. Dragon Blade coming in from Naga, but he gets chunked. Doesn't matter. Still got Kevster. Boostio following up, and the Goats are just rampaging through point B here on Dorada.
Same situation though, where those supports are just getting completely torn apart. Naga is all over them all game long, and when he isn't, it's Nomi following up, putting them out of position and allowing Boostio to just kind of take pot shots throughout this entire series.
Goats with unchained momentum here so far. 3 minutes and 45 seconds, a lightning fast time. Big part, of course, has been Boostio. Early EMP out for Pugs. NRG seizing the advantage. The EMP self-destruct combo, it's reserved, gets one, but that's enough to at least buy time. We'll see what the Goats do to adjust.
Good on Byram to maintain patience there, as he might have been wanting to stay alive there, but they had the advantage. Now we'll see. Boostio already got one here. Can he set up to find another? He has vision, of course, of Smex, but that's not going to do much, as Smex isn't going to be one of those one-hit kill targets that he needs to be looking for here.
Well, Boostio decided that he wasn't going to back up. He was going to be sneaky, a little bit unexpected. It works out. They get the pick on the Kevster, but of course he's Tracer. It's a quicker respawn by virtue of getting back out there quickly after spawning. Soundbear in here from Goats, and Kevster down again. Boostio, the anti-Tracer Widowmaker, but Wavy's down. It's 5-on-5. Stan getting a lot of value out of this Primal Rage, knocking people around, and Boostio finds Pugs! He's just a constant threat. No one's actually going in on him. Finally, Stan does, and they deal with the Boostio threat.
All he knows how to hit is heads. That's the only thing he knows how to aim for, and that's exactly why he's up there on the ladder. Kevster just doesn't even want to go into that 1v1 because he just doesn't have the same space control. I mean, just everybody just breathing down his neck. So he goes Tracer, just try to combat it straight up. And now Boostio is just going to match him. He says, I want the mirror. Give it to me. Let me have it.
Yeah, this is a little bit unexpected, but this is true ladder logic in progress. Like, oh, this guy thinks he's better Tracer than me? You think you're better than me? Well, okay, Tracer v Tracer. Why not? Naga able to get Byram down immediately. Full-on Genji Tracer dive. No Brigida in sight. We've truly gone back to the good old days here. Nomi with heavy pressure to backline, backed up by unrelenting dive. The Goats on their way. One fight from taking the apex of Dorado.
And another thing in Tracer's favor is the pulse bomb potential as well. A lot of stick targets available for the Tracer.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Touch the payload. You don't have to be a letter number. It doesn't have to be a thing. But then it was. So yeah, not ideal for NRG there, because frankly, what we saw from the Goats was just absolute pressure coming in. If you finish Dorado, period, you're feeling good. If you finish Dorado with 1:44 left, you're feeling fantastic. Really good stuff coming in from the Goats.
Now they just have to close it out here. They had, really good looks from the dive. I think really it was off the back of a lot of great plays from Boostio, and then just kind of things exacerbated as well by the fact that a lot of these other guys are just playing so well. And certainly hats off to Wavy as well for coming in and playing this flex support role and doing a pretty decent job of it, really standing up to a lot of these other players as well. I mean, there are a lot of new names as well for NRG. Certainly looking at Hello Halo coming from, I believe, TCG, if I'm not mistaken. And being able to have an impact and being able to survive in some cases versus the threats of Naga and Boostio, that's a lot to ask of a guy in this position.
No doubt about it. And also, I mean, Boostio in and of himself, obviously it's a player that's been around the tier 2 scene for a while now. He's just very mechanically good, and watching him just dominate on Widowmaker was a huge thorn in the side of NRG, where also, let's be fair to NRG, quite obviously, this is a brand new team put together. It's basically the only way it's even still NRG right now is Specs being on the team. So they're obviously working things out.
Yeah, so they are going to be able to figure things out over time. But I mean, as they go forward, we're definitely going to have to see how they control this high ground, because it's certainly in control of Goats, and they have the availability to really play into that as well with this Genji. Pugs bringing out one of his own, and we talked about how we're going to see a lot of Sombra here, but it's going to be Kevster on it this time around.
Kevster going into the backline right now, looking for the early damage on the Wavy. Wavy in trouble, Winston right in him, gets healed up by Ana though. Tensa right on it, doesn't let Wavy fall. But NRG, they're not done yet. They're going right back into the fight. Kevster back on into it. Hack on the Nomi. Nomi in trouble. Pressure from all sides. Nomi, though, again healed up by Tensa. The Ana play just ruining Kevster's day on this harassment. And NRG still pushing forward, but Boostio finally finds a target. Hello Halo is down 5-on-5. EMP charge up from Kevster. Drops the EMP, and the EMP is far too much for Goats to deal with. They do start falling.
A lot used there to get that done, but it's exactly what they needed to unlock that first point. And they'll have a similar time bank here, ZP, from what we saw out of Goats on their push, as they're going to be up over 5 minutes. And Boostio now trying to deal with Pugs. It's definitely been a threat for him. But in this section of the map, this is where I think Widowmaker is actually going to shine. You know, it's a little bit more natural of a play style. Certainly utilizing the dichotomy of the map is going to be a lot easier at this section than it was in the first.
Well, also, I do think Goats got a little bit unlucky because in that first fight, Boostio had more body shots to the swimsuit calendar because he built up ult super quickly, but he also wasn't getting any pickoffs. So it's like, I'm hitting people, I'm just not hitting the heads. So we'll see if Boostio's going to have a little bit better luck here. But so far, it's going to get slowed down a bit. Infocyte tends to do that. Naga, though, goes a little bit too deep, and that's not the ideal scenario here. Both Genjis out of the fight, though, so it's all evened up. Boostio still looking for those angles.
I'm thinking we should do a Beat Invitational talent body shot calendar going forward. But anyways, as we dive back into the game.
I can't be liable for that many people going blind. Like, I'm sorry. I like people to keep their vision, and that is not what happens if they see me in that scenario. As NRG able to just go on forward. The self-destruct from Specs absolutely sets a tone, and NRG setting a quick pace of their own.
Yeah, talk about setting the tone. NRG going to be having that EMP blade ready to go. They don't have the nano boost to follow up, but maybe the blade without the ability to use your skills is going to be enough, and they'll have the backup of the beat as well to keep Pug safe so he can be aggressive in this next fight.
Kevster again drop the EMP, heavy pressure again from NRG. Everyone getting hit by the Bionade right after. Byram piling on to what Kevster set up. Everything going NRG's way where, we can't use abilities. We can't be healed. I guess we choose option number 3, which is die. And that is where Goats are at. 5 minutes left for NRG.
So no Doomfist on the table, but here is that kind of, you know, perhaps anti-Doomfist style where they're really trying to shut down Kevster and Pugs. That aggression coming in from the flanks as Boostio and Naga are going to be playing McCree and Brig.
Fui gets hacked early on this fight. Goats looking for any form of stability, a Transcendence in reserve. Nice Bionade coming in here early. Goats looking for the ability to come on in. Wavy can he use the Transcendence early on. Specs though picks off more. Another deadly self-destruct to the back line, and NRG not being stopped.
Not at all. Goats is forced to back up yet again. Nomi trying to keep the dream alive with the Primal Rage, but it's just a matter of time before he goes down. They'll also allow NRG to fully stabilize off the back of that Biotic, so cooldown for Biotic, but should be able to come up when it's needed. And look at this time bank that they have.
So much time left here from NRG, but you know, the greater the pride, the greater the fall sometimes. Boostio now on the McCree. It would be really good for NRG to finish this out here, but it would be even more devastating if they got delayed. Boostio on the hunt right now, able to provide a bit of stability. 3 minutes and 45 seconds left for NRG, but they will have some tools in reserve.
No answer for EMP Nano Blade. That setup, if it works out the way that they need it to, if they're able to execute this properly and Kevster can find value getting really who he needs to, someone like Naga Boostio to shut down the ability for them to stun out Pugs, they should be able to get a lot of kills with this setup.
Just takes a little bit of poke damage here, and now going, please heal. I would like to use Dragon Blade, please. I still need healing. Ana, please hit me with the... Stop leaving me under 200. Okay, finally, here we go. Nano Blade on the way. Has to deflect immediately. Looks at his watch, realizes not the greatest time to go on him, but knocks Nomi out of the sky. Early advantage here, the NRG. And now, looking a little bit forward, Boostio was able to get Kevster. Both teams trading on out. Barrier in from NRG. Pressure coming in fast and furious. Goats on the decline. And now you gotta look at who's gonna delay. Nomi's coming back into the fight. Hui drops a self-destruct. Space being made. Bubble on the point. Stand one down. Front line from NRG not there anymore. And Goats will hold.
They will back them out. And off the back of just no setup from the Sombras, Kevster just wasn't in position just yet, and they pulled the trigger anyways. Pugs wasn't able to do anything. They maybe would have been able to set up, shut out not only Boostio's Deadeye, but also really kind of enable Pugs to get in there and again be aggressive with that blade. So now they're going to swap things up, match up the McCree Brig as well, and go toe-to-toe with them. However, that main difference being the Zenyatta versus the Ana, but Wavy just going to match that as well. So complete mirror on both sides.
Anna has gone back to enjoy retirement. She's no longer here. The risk of becoming purple, simply not a thing. Don't have to worry about that first scene of Willy Wonka. But Goats now, you take a look here. Tensa holding onto the sound barrier early on. NRG rotating around. Boostio again! An early pickoff on the Halo. Not only is he not going to be able to build a barrier now, but there's simply no easy way for NRG to engage. Herix, they had 5 minutes. This is an absolute collapse.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a travesty. Goats has stopped them in their tracks. A complete brick wall is what NRG has hit. And the big thing I think that has changed is just their capacity to pull out of fights they know aren't going to be able to win for them, and then taking advantage of the spawn and how close it is, and getting their re-engages with this McCree.
Early rally here from Naga. Now gonna have to go forward, gets stunned, can't get away from the self-destruct. All doors were not open to him. Boostio on the top, uses the Deadeye early in the fight, a little bit of zoning. Now, laying damage in the stance. Damn one almost falling, just barely. Oh, still falls. Nomi finishes his plate. Under a minute now for NRG. Boostio in the back, the one that's been getting pickoff after pickoff. Now Kevster looking towards him, ends up falling. Wavy finishes it off. NRG down to their final attempt here on Dorado.
Such a good comp for Goats to play here as well, because NRG, I mean, they have to set the pace. They have to dive in, and when they do, to try to find that spacing, they're just going to be met by Naga and Boostio. So they have their tanks just completely stunned out, and that's when Wavy comes through with the Discord. So, I mean, already Stand 1 is just having such a hard time alongside Smex to actually get in there and do anything.
Kevster open up Deadeye, doesn't do anything. Now NRG, final attempt, 10 seconds left. Wavy opens up an early Transcendence, doesn't save Hui in time here. NRG, everything on the table, early barrier, 2 big pickoffs. Kevster looking for Nomi, finishes him off. Everything going NRG's way here. Now the view's just about everything they have, but you look at Smex, he's gonna be able to self-destruct on the point here in a moment. Hui buying a bit of time, ends up getting demeched immediately. Nomi, can he get back in time? Yes, he will. Primal Rage will be in here, so that's gonna give them a bit of time.
Oh, they could lose Stan, but he's actually going to Primal Rage up.
Okay, Stan is the Primal, but so is Nomi, and this is the danger part. Oh, Nomi's just getting blown up. Discord Orb, Focus Fire down, buys hardly any time at all, and NRG not out of it yet. They needed all 5 minutes, went to overtime. They're on a time bank disadvantage, but they're alive.
Such a great swap, though, from Goats. I mean, and to be able to consistently stay at that as well, where there wasn't really much of an answer. I mean, we saw them wanting really to go for the dive setup on the attack, and you have to wonder maybe why not, if you're NRG at least, why not go for Goats? Why not play something that caters to that a little bit, where you can just kind of play that rock, paper, scissors game of, you know, you're going to go Brig McCree, and we can't run a dive anymore. Okay, we'll just go Goats, and we'll just ram it straight on in and hold W. So you have to wonder, maybe there was something that I'm too dumb to realize, but I feel like, honestly, that would have been the play for them, because the dive clearly wasn't it until they had all of their options available, and they were able to kind of expose some of the misplays that happened late into that game.
Well, one thing I'll say here is you're kind of going on the vibe of everything being logical, but the reality is for a lot of these teams is that game plans are anything but, right? Where especially when you're dealing with teams that are dealing with a lot of new members, especially in NRG's case, right? Where you have a whole bunch of new people to the team. You've barely even been a team. Like, you arguably might be more of a pug than a full team at this point. No one really knows what you're going to swap to. There's a whole bunch of cooks in the kitchen, and no one is really sure what to make. And sometimes you come out with a dish that is worse than your average fare at McDonald's. So it all depends. But now we're getting into it. It's going to be Goats here on the defense.
Talk about better food. Soylent over McDonald's all day long.
Soylent, it's not only healthy, it won't put you in an early grave. It's the nutrition you need, the nutrition you crave. And guess what? NRG might have been having a little bit to start things out here, because they got the first 2 pickoffs, and they're well on their way.
Certainly looking energized for sure, as NRG surging forward, trying to make the most of this time bank that they have just kind of allotted themselves. Unfortunately, not as high as it really could have been had they have maybe gone for Goats in that last one. Or sorry, 3-3. I remember I amended that.
Well, it is 3-3, but here's the point. They're down to their final 13 seconds. We would love to keep the overtime push going. Early hack on the Pugs, though. He's in a rough spot. Pressure coming on him, but Kevster deals with both tanks. NRG getting the pressure they need. Now, both teams might be down to Winston, but NRG with the frontline edge here because Specs is still up. And oh no, how do you let Hui get back on in? That's a disaster. Here comes Naga. Gets slapped. Nice sleep coming out from Byram. Deals with the worst of the Dragon Blade, but it's not going to be enough. They don't need the Dragon Blade to finish it off, and the Goats will stop the payload right here in the Dorado courtyard. As Naga says, nice sleep. Nice sleep.
I hope I'm not the only person that feels like a nano boosted Sombra sounds like the most terrifying form of some kind of like helicopter turret that I've ever heard in my entire life. It's honestly the scariest gun sound in the entire game that I have ever witnessed in my life.
Would you say that a Sombra that's nano boosted identifies as an Apache attack helicopter?
Certainly one of the things it could identify as among many other possibly more scary aerial military things for sure. I mean, there's uh, AC-130s, things like that. I mean, that thing is terrifying. It sounds insane when you do get that nano boost. It's ridiculous and just feeds into the fear that supports have when Sombra is, of course, on the field. And that is exactly what we're going to have here as well. We'll have to see if Boostio winds up going with that or if they're going to have something else up their sleeve. And it is indeed, at the moment at least, going to be Sombra v Sombra. And remember, they only got to the market here just, I believe it was right in front of the fountain. No, it was actually right past. They almost scored it. So there is a little bit of distance cover if you are goats. So it is certainly winnable for NRG as they got it through the market a little bit, but still 244. And with how oppressive Boostio and Naga have been towards Byram and Hello I'm Halo, this is going to be very, very tough for them to shut that down.
Kevster going to need some big pickoffs here on the Widow early on, looking for the Genji. Had an opportunity, doesn't quite pull the trigger in time, but it puts a lot of pressure here if Kevster doesn't get pickoffs on the Pugs to just be almost more frontline, dealing with the tanks as they move in. Getting to see the early dive coming in here from Goats, moving over. Kevster under pressure. Kevster already gone, and now who do you need? Oh, Pugs is gone as well. There's no more damage left for NRG.
Perfectly executed. Boostio following things up with the hack onto Pugs, shutting out the Sombra. Now they have no damage. They have to wait for these to come back, and Kevster also coming back on the Tracer for the recontest.
Kevster just needs to get back quicker, utilizing the mobility of a Tracer to get back to the fight a little bit sooner, be more of a brawl setup where they're going to need the contest on the point. It's not great sightlines for Widowmaker anymore, but Naga with the blade shuts down both supports before he can even blink. The Goats on the verge of shocking NRG here. They take down everyone on the point. The cleanup is theirs, and that means NRG is going to be one map away from being eliminated here in the Overwatch Beat Invitational. The online curse for NRG continues on.
Yeah, so difficult, especially early on in these matchups where, you know, NRG really struggles until they find their footing. And this is going to be something that is going to be a struggle for them for some time. Obviously, coming together like this, they need to find some kind of synergy. Haven't quite found it. I mean, it seems like they're close. It seems like they aren't making too many, you know, fatal errors. I think the big error on their part was just not switching the comp and adapting to what was being played at the final stage of the map. They would have had a much better position in terms of the overall time bank. They were sitting on over 5 minutes of time going into that final stage. They didn't ever go for the 3-3 or any variation thereof. And because of that, lost out on what was an exceptional push.
Certainly momentum for NRG just fell off a bit towards the very end, but NRG at the very least, if they're going to go out, they get to go out on their own terms, where they're going to be looking here, of course, towards whatever map pick they want, and that's going to be Lijiang Tower. So at the very least, they get to go to something that they feel the most comfortable on, and it also makes sense, right? Where you have a team here that, well, okay, Poise is getting swapped back in, so they'll have Poise back in the lineup. At least Specs and Poise are a little bit more comfortable with each other, but there is a sort of the trend in Overwatch that when you have a team that, realistically speaking, is not super comfortable with each other, but you have good mechanical skill, you throw it to a control map.
Absolutely. And not only just that, but you also have those wild card picks, right? Because what we saw in Lijiang Tower, first of all, give us control center. Give us control center. That's what we want to see right out of the gate, because that's where I think NRG is going to really stand out. Yesterday, we saw some interesting composition come out from them. Doomfist, May, just going for that full control. That's something that could shut down something that comes out from Goats, whether it be, you know, an Ana Goats or something like that. I mean, I remember Goats yesterday wound up playing, I think that was No, that wasn't when they ran the Torb. That was, I think, Lifa that ran the Torb on that map, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, I think if you're goats here, you want to play tank heavy for sure. And on the other side of things, NRG, play for control, play to shut them out and isolate them. That's the name of the game for me personally. Having Poise on that Doomfist, having Kevster on the May, I think that will be big for them.
Well, Poise, of course, he's been an interesting story for NRG where he's had his ups and downs. Arguably, you look at Contender Season 2, it was quite a bit of trouble fitting into the NRG roster, but as NRG went to the playoffs, he was almost part of a rather big upset playing on the Sombra and doing well. So I am curious to see what Poise shows up here. Is it playoff Poise that was doing quite well for NRG, or is it regular season Poise that never quite found his stride? But one thing that we're seeing here from NRG that you gotta believe it will be for real is that you're gonna see Kevster coming in on the May, and it's a flex pick here that has actually been quite effective on the control center.
I'm curious to see how. I mean, certainly goats. If they did their due diligence watching yesterday's matchups, they have to expect this this composition to come out. How are they going to deal with the isolation that is inherent? I mean, with the May, and also on top of that, the pressure that's going to come from Poise on the Doomfist.
Well, we'll just have to see. Certainly, you have that 1-2 punch where the May's going to isolate things out, give Poise an even easier time to get nice setups in on the Doomfist. Kevster going to drop the early wall there. It's not really a wall that seals anything off. It's not as effective, but hey, still finds Boostio. Kevster on the DPS May. Able to land that early headshot. Stan just walks on forward, and NRG, with good control here, is going to take the first setup as Kevster doing quite a bit in this May, already 50% towards Blizzard.
A lot of times you can see Caster Curse getting us. I mean, I called for Control Center. That's the map we got. I called for this composition. This is the composition we got. And it actually winds up working out for NRG. And actually, Goats answering it with a May of their own.
Oh, you see the wall coming out from Kevster, and that one is quite good. Seals things off, results in Nomi just taking a dirt nap. And NRG now just going to utilize the May as effectively as possible here, trusting Kevster to get good splits.
I'm seeing if they're going to try to shut down. Oh, yep, using that wall to shut down the isolation, but still isolated.
Oh man, we Tetris now. Blocks going everywhere, but at the end, NRG still in control. So the May versus May doesn't quite work out the way that Naga was hoping for.
And still, I mean, we're at 40%, and Boostio is swapping off the Zarya. So already the control is in favor of NRG, but now that they are Zarya list for Goats, that's just even more power to Smex.
And Smex right now looking at Ice Ball in his face. A little bit of freezer action happening on. Naga gonna fall, but stand out of it. So 5-on-5, NRG gonna drop the grab, still in control as Smex dives on in. Gets hit with the Bionade though, can't get healed up in time. Doesn't matter though because Poise getting plenty of cleanup here in the Doomfist.
Oh, Wavy might go out. Oh, he stays alive, but Kevster punches him down, and it's going to be NRG taking this fight as well. A little bit of a duel as Naga goes down as well. Perfect cleanup from NRG and setting things back up. They don't really have a lot of options, but again, look for Naga's setup to get them onto the point. They isolated Stan, and that last one, he was able to take a trade that I think really set up NRG to be able to take that last fight, and now 90% in their favor.
Goats looking for a way back in. So far, control has been rather rough for them here so far. They do have the ults, though. Let's back it on up. Early ball here from Naga again, just buying a little bit of cover for the team to get onto the point. Smex already losing shields, but Poise from the outside takes down Naga. And NRG now working man advantage. Byron, though, out. Hui retaliates with the self-destruct. And the tank control coming in for the Goats. Poison still in, diving over, finding Lucio. No, not quite. Wavy with the support Bionade, gets the heal and the pickoff. Goats might not be out of it yet.
Well, they're going to stick in, and off the back of Nomi now, they're going to try to make sure that they find a kill for themselves. But there is the beat drop from Halo, trying to keep this dream alive.
Blizzard coming on in. Strand feeling awfully chilly here. Taken on down, even between both sides. But as Goats, they did flip the point, so they're down for delay. They just can't lose control. Smex gonna drop the grab, uses it to deal with who he is. Poise goes wild into the back. Smex gets a final pick off here, and NRG ends up retaking the point. And Goats, not sure if they're gonna be able to touch here in time. Doesn't look like it, and no, NRG taking the first round here on Legion.
I think this one was the gimme. I think NRG, I mean, they certainly love when Control Center comes up, and I think this is great for them in this series to be able to have this confidence builder, this pivot in the matchup. But now they have to go on to the other maps where things aren't as simple. There are a lot of different changes that we can see from Goats that can really kind of throw curveballs, I think, for NRG, and it's going to be about how they deal with those. And the first one in front of them right now is, of course, going to be the Widowmaker and Naga on the Pharah. And that matchup right there is going to be so difficult for them to deal with. But I think it's good that they're coming out of the gates here with the McCree. They're going to have the ability to inherently deal with Naga as long as they have the support for Kevster so he's not getting batted around and also shut down by a Widow.
The problem is you're going to put a lot of support on Kevster, but Boostio does have that one-shot potential. Oh no, Byram's already down, gets booped right off the side, and Boostio only looking for the McCree here. If you can deal with the McCree and protect the McCree comp, you're going to be feeling pretty good, but he doesn't land the shot, ends up getting dove on as a result, under pressure, ends up falling. I think he thought he got the health back and didn't, so he's out of it early on, which means that Kevster can breathe easily for a while.
And Poise wrapping around. They're just, again, just protecting that McCree, trying to find space for him to find the kill and the pressure onto Naga.
All right, Kevster moving in. Early control here from NRG. Gonna get the first capture and stand cleaning up the scraps. We'll see if Boostio stays on the Widow, where again, a Widow could break it open, but so far Kevster has been well protected and not giving easy shots.
It's really all about sightlines too. I mean, Naga hasn't had a couple of good angles for a while. I mean, Boostio really shut down, of course. That's why he's sitting at 30% and hasn't really found anything at all on this Widowmaker. But Naga, pretty much the same over the last minute or so.
Deadeye coming up. Kevster had an opportunity. Still had a happy little skull and finds Wavy in the back. I think he really would have liked to gone the Pharah, but you get the Ana. You're still feeling good about it. 30% to 0 for NRG.
Commanding lead, especially off the back of Control Center 2, is just huge for them as they're looking to continue to shut out Naga and Boostio as they're playing a little bit more reactively too on this point.
Kevster holding onto the point again, really using sightlines so long as he's afraid of the Widowmaker. Naga though, able to get Byram early on. Boostio even finds stand. And here comes Naga from the back, barrage on the Kevster, and NRG finding themselves very outflanked here, but still a pretty good opening. You got 60%. Can't feel too bad about that.
Sometimes you're playing McCree, and you shut down a massive flank by one of the better Pharahs in this tournament. Sometimes you throw a flashbang at nothing. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. So they're going to swap up their composition. They're going to go for Tracer and Sombra. Still running that dive. They just want to be a little bit more aggressive into dealing with Boostio and just kind of take the fight away from Naga as much as possible by being elusive, by being quick, going for that full dive.
It's sort of back and forth. They're really trying to focus on the ground game here, but the problem here is that you're also giving Naga a lot of room to work with. There's not much that's really going to threaten him here. Kevster going to fall early. The goal here, of course, is that they just want Blitz in onto the point, not really deal with Naga at all, and Zen lucky not to take a dive off the other end. Barrier in from NRG. Again, using it to just raw focus on the point. They deal with both Boostio and Wavy, and yeah, Naga's still alive here, but he wasn't able to do enough. The ground game focus of NRG works out.
This also forces Naga so far up into the air because he doesn't want to get poked down by Poison Kevster that he's not able to be as efficient or as consistent with landing his direct rockets. Yes, you know, the change to Pharah allows him to get a little bit more of a rapid fire rate, but he's not going to get as much value out of landing the splash damage unless it's a lot closer now.
Naga holding on to the barrage. Final opportunity coming up here for the Goats. Nomi in trouble already. Barrage comes out, still finds Byram. The Matrix not there in time. In fact, Specs ends up biting the dust as Naga gets enough off the barrage. Goats gonna rotate back over onto the point. It's in overtime, but they still have time to spare.
They will be able to flip this for sure, and that was a great setup by Naga. Shut them down. They didn't have the defense matrix and a lot of booping going on as well to deny, of course, Smex to be able to get in there with the defense matrix and soak up that damage, mitigate that pressure. Now it's all about holding out. What can they do here? Again, Naga's so far up in the sky because he doesn't want to get poked down by Kevster and Poise, and they're just going to run the ground game.
Oh! The self-destruct so well placed. Naga had nowhere to go. He was going to try and go down and boop his way on out. Wasn't going to be a thing. Smex has made this fight very, very easy for NRG. Of course, they take the round. It's going to be the map. Goats, very little options available to them here. Everyone taken down on the point. The point now, NRG's overtime in progress. Now he just looks, someone gets touched to the point. Winston, they'll be able to get over there. Nano Boost even finds Helm Halo, so unforced error there coming up from NRG. Gave up an early pick, but still in firm control as the GOAT stream on board. They buy themselves a little bit of time, but it's not going to matter. Kevster on cleanup duty as NRG well on their way here to finishing out the map and heading to a map 3.
Kevster cleanup, Stan going forward, and that is exactly it. Going on to a game number 3, Goats took the first map, Dorado. NRG handily turning things back around, subbing Poise back in for Pugs. I mean, Pugs still did a lot, but I think this really comes down to the fact that during or in a controlled map, you even said it yourself, just maybe they don't have all the setups and all of the executions down pat. Maybe it really comes down to the fact that they have that skill level. They have the ability to kind of adapt on the fly with some of these situations. So if they can stray away from maps where it really lends to needing or the necessity of having 3-3 compositions, I think they'll do well. But if there's an instance where they have to run that, force the Protect McCree comp where realistically the 3-3 is going to be the best answer, NRG hasn't really wanted to show that all too often for us today. I mean, so far we've seen it a couple of times, but certainly a lot more dive setups from NRG so far.
Well, if Goats won the truly meta game here and play into the entire idea of, well, you're a new team, you haven't played much together, what's going to be really difficult for you? That would be Temple of Anubis, the Assault map pick here, where Assault maps have not been favored here in the tournament so far. But if there was a time to bring a team to an Assault map, it would be NRG right here, because NRG, they don't have the synergy together that you would expect from a team that's been together a longer time. They're clearly more in flux. Now, I don't know if Goats in particular really want to go to Assault because there's a certain variability to Assault modes that can actually work against you, but it really would not be a bad choice here. So I'm curious to see where we go. If it's not Anubis, I would say that they would probably bring it over to a hybrid map, likely Kings Row. We'll see where it goes, though.
I mean, Goats even has that same problem to a degree as well. I mean, they haven't really been together all that long. And on top of that, Wavy is playing flex support. I mean, you look back into Fractal Esports days, Sit and Wavy, where the two guys playing together all the time. So Frill and Inke, I think were their names back then as well. So, this is something where they've even seen adjustments themselves. So despite the fact that NRG doesn't look as connected as we would expect, them to look towards the latter part of last season and certainly going into pit and beat last season as well. This is still a similar situation for Goats, and we have to kind of expect that same kind of thing. So it looks like we are going to be jumping into Hollywood as the map choice for Goats, which is interesting, especially because of the fact that if I was Goats, I would want to be forcing NRG to play a 3-3 style composition as often as possible, because of the fact that on Dorado, they were very, very hesitant to actually pull that out, and they wound up losing the map probably because of that.
Yeah, I would say that definitely makes sense from the perspective of, hey, throw the other team in something that they're not going to be good at. However, there's also the entire idea where we don't know where the GOAT's mindset is. Plenty of teams go from the perspective of, well, you know what? We're going to play to something that we really want to go to because we think that's going to be better than trying to play to whatever perceived weakness that you might have. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the logic coming in here. But we will be going to Hollywood for our rubber match here. It is a 1-1 series, and at stake as we go into Hollywood, of course, is elimination. But as we wait here for everything to get settled and us to go in, this is a great time to talk about our wonderful sponsors. That's right, we're going to be selling out here. And down the list, of course, first off, we have Cooler Master, who they make fantastic coolers for your PC or outright PC cases, among a whole bunch of other great peripherals. Twitch, well, you know what? You're watching the stream on Twitch. You know you can watch great content, and Twitch, of course, makes this happen. Sennheiser, treat your ears, have some audio fidelity to your life. Plex Store, if you want those good storage solutions going forward. ViewSonic for monitor-related things. Treat your eyes. And finally, last but not least, are you hungry? Are you just hungry in general? Do you not want to spend time actually eating or time prepping food? Get a case of Soylent. We'll do you what? Right. But now we're going to be heading into Hollywood, where the GOATs and NRG will be making their respective last stands.
So if I'm Goats right now and I'm going into Hollywood, I'm expecting that's because, I think that Boostio is going to be able to win out the matchup between obviously him and Kevster, and that's that same ladder matchup that we saw in Dorado early on. Boostio was really, really pushing it and had a great showing in a lot of situations where he was able to shut him down a few times. And I think if you're feeling confident about that matchup, whether it be Doomfist, whether it be Widowmaker, I would say primarily Widowmaker, and you're also feeling confident with your Sombra play, fine. Go Hollywood, go this map, try to do as much as you can in the second phase of the map. Obviously, everybody wants to get the full hold, but I think where we're going to see Goat shining is actually in the streets phase if all goes according to plan.
Alrighty, well, moving on in, and from the defense here from NRG, Kevster going to be on the McCree to start things out, and going to be a hard task for him here where he's going to need to deal with the incoming Doom Sombra.
Now as they start things up, again, protect that McCree, Boostio making the swap. Actually, okay, they're going to go Goats here. They're going to go 3-3 perhaps as Nomi is going to make the swap, and there it is. So they just go and make the adjustment that NRG didn't make at the end of Dorado.
So, quick adjustment after seeing what the enemy team is going to be running as Goats running Goats. Truly the most iconic of setups. Hui, though, getting chunked early on under pressure. Ends up getting healed right back on up. Specs, though, taking down Naga early on. Going to derail the Goat setup because you get rid of the Brigitte. Likely going to win the fight.
Hope Kevster likes shooting barriers because that's pretty much what he's going to be allowed to do this entire matchup. So we're going to see the reset as Naga's going to come back from spawn, and they're going to go ahead and dive back in. But playing off the high ground is super important now for NRG because they have the ability with Stan and Smex to rejoin the team up on that high ground, whereas, you know, the opposition doesn't have any ability to get that verticality.
Nice sleep on the Hui off the nano boost, really mitigates the impact. And Naga's down again. Smex has been diving into the Brigitte every single time, isolating Naga from the rest of the team. But the offense here from Goats has struck deeply. They've gotten a few pickoffs. Yeah, it's back and forth, but this is what the offense loves in this sort of situation. Jedi coming out here from Kevster, looking to turn things the other way, at least pushes people back a bit, but it's still a very tough situation for NRG as Kevster comes face to face with Brigitte.
Yeah, it just took too long. The spawns came around. He wasn't able to protect the backside, and now it's going to be Goats looking to close things out here.
Goats on the verge of taking point A. Of course, we have seen teams come back in this very tournament from rough situations at point A, but it doesn't really seem like this is going to be one of those times. It's all about cleanup here, and that was the point where if you're NRG, you might want to consider backing it out and considering your options for point B.
So they're going to hold on to these ultimates that they have. Boostio, of course, namely the Graviton is going to be one to look for, but I think if at any point they wind up getting halted in the second phase of this map here, we're certainly going to see them making those swaps, probably over to a Widowmaker, where I think they're going to have that opportunity to go hand in hand with that matchup between Boostio and Kevster. And if Boostio can win that one out, that's a huge boon to Goats and their ability to push through to that third phase where they're going to start pushing it quickly.
Of course, looking for the grab here can be a little bit of a difficult proposition. Boostio doesn't have any super obvious clumps of people, but he's going to focus on the Winston for now. Drops on the other side, and they go for Smex. Get rid of the Diva threat here. It's about all they're going to get off the grab, but it's enough. You deal with Smex. You don't have to worry about any craziness in terms of Naga getting picked off early, and now the Goats just letting this be a slow burn while always pushing on the payload.
And they are just dealing with this high ground threat pretty much solely with Hui on the Diva as he's going up there and cleaning things up almost by himself.
Kevster been in trouble, ends up falling. Boostio just going ever deeper here. Diva in his face, and he goes, oh, I'll take this ultimate charge. Absolutely. Specs gonna end up falling, and the Goats continue to keep things rolling forward.
Boostio just positioned so far forward alongside Nomi, giving them that protection so that they can keep pushing this through and forcing some really bad engages from NRG. But here's the engage that's going to come from Poise as EMP is at the ready, gets the hack onto Boostio to set up.
Poise EMP setup coming in off the rafters here. Self-destruct though, in from Hui, making space. Poise doesn't want to go in. Halo already down. Nomi clearing out the point. Poise just going in for a little bit of damage. Doesn't really have an ideal situation. He needs his team to be able to fall through. And now, gonna dive on in. Self-destruct in. Last second from Specs. Not gonna connect with anything. NRG still in a rough spot here. It was a nice rotation by Goats to deal with it. A grab from Boostio is gonna seal the deal, and the Goats have taken point B.
and they do it without making those swaps. They are able to just make sure that they have Hui in a position where he can force a lot of aggression to the high ground, and the supports could not set up. Kevster could not set up at all, and there was no help from them from the tank line either at that stage. So yes, they make that swap. Now they start answering things a little bit by going with a 2-1-3 setup, or sorry, 3-1-2 setup. Wait, I can't count. 2-1-3. going with the
as
two
easy as
tanks up
1,
front.
2, 3, you might even say. But the goats, they are going to immediately roll forward. Naga pressuring the Reinhardt, early shield bash, rally about to be up, pops it immediately, speed boost in, just beating up stand one. He stands no longer, falling to the ground. Early pickoff from the goats, just unrelenting pressure at the expense of NRG right now, and they're getting thrown back. This is what the GOAT style gameplay is known for. You throw yourself on the point, you throw your team off the point, and Stan coming in last moment, ham and delay. We saw this a little bit earlier, but don't know if it's going to be quite as effective. Self-destruct can clear the way. Zarya shield, though, keeps Stan alive. Just too much damage in the end as the GOATs on the verge of saying a very quick time here versus NRG.
Yeah, if there's any hope for NRG, it has to be off the back of Smacks, and they are not on the point at all. I mean, they would have lost that probably anyways. I don't think they had the damage follow-up, even if Smacks was able to get the Graviton Surge down. So, GOATs stampeding through the map. I mean, a little bit of a hiccup on that first point. Took them, I think, just over 2 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. But, you know, that's still a decent pace to set. And then to just kind of waltz your way through phase 2 and then literally barrel through phase 3. I mean, it just got faster and faster and faster. That snowball kept falling down that hill with just absurd momentum as we progress through the map. Now they're looking to defend, and this is where we see them go for that kind of high horse setup, or whatever you want to call it, with that Orisa high ground. And
so I can't tell if you are lagging out right now, or it is simply on my end. Do you hear me as stuttery is all? If we could actually get the third-party production point of view here.
All right.
Okay, I'm fine. Are you hearing Hirik stutter at all, or is it just like somehow also on me? Okay, so production can hear us both fine. I was just, okay, whatever. It's fine. As long as Hirik can both hear us, we will interpret.
We'll do our best. I can hear you, so I'll talk to you, and then you'll just do your best.
All right, you know what? I'm down for this. We will make it work. Make it so, as it were. Either way, and look, online broadcasts sometimes have these things happen, but NRG setting up for the attack. Hirik, it's going to have to be a quick one.
Absolutely. I mean, 237 is a decent pace to set, and they're going to go for that classic dive. We've seen more of this. We talked about it before, even on Hollywood, where we're talking specifically about tracers coming back into the fray, especially with a lot of these openings where Brigitte isn't played every single time. But man, Kevster denied immediately by the Junkrat, and we're probably going to see those Jake memes in chat, right? I mean, there's a Junkrat kill, so there it is.
You would have to think, especially when you get that early pickoff. NRG, though, they're going to be, as you mentioned, going to be running the GT dive early on. It's not going to be easy for defense to swap into a Brigitte. So this is a gambit that can work out, assuming they can get the proper coordination in. It's going to be all about Genji and Tracer getting in the same time as Winston D.Va, this full collapse. And you see NRG setting up for it right now. There comes Winston. Winston gets body blocked, though. Doesn't get to build a cafe poise. Gets a nice deflect, but gets hit with the Bionade early on, 12 HP. Not getting healed, gets away just in time, healed back up. Looking for the option. The defense certainly bloodied a bit here, but Naga finds Hello early on. And at the 6-on-5, NRG definitely a little bit more in trouble, but with Hui down, it's all evened up. Busio's going down, and we see Poise finding all sorts of room in the cafe. NRG striking fast and furious.
This type of composition is all about rotations. Nomi and Hui have to work together to be quick about maintaining their ability to just get out of there if possible and rotate the team somewhere else and pull back and maybe re-engage later, or just get onto the point, get to a different position, because at that point they were just being held up on the high ground where they weren't really having any effect at all, and Poise and Kevster were able to go into the back line and just do the dirty work. Nothing was really there to protect them. I mean, you know, no Brig there as well.
Poise getting a little bit of damage done, ends up falling, but the blade's going to be in reserve, so NRG working with a decent amount of time right now. No need to panic here just yet, but we'll need to go back and reestablish. Nomi, though, goes a little bit deep. That's going to be big for the momentum of NRG.
This is that second phase of the map where I talked about Bustio coming out on the Widowmaker, and this is where I think he's going to be able to shine. He needs to land these shots, though. Has to be consistent with this.
Looking for the Widow pressure. Kevster, meanwhile, in the back on the Tracer. Doesn't really want to do anything too crazy yet. Not while NRG is getting payload progress. You don't want to get picked off when a situation where even if you got picked off, it wouldn't matter as much.
I'm looking at Boostio's sightlines now, and he has that perfect sightline to deal with the Anna in the back line, and Byron coming through, sets up poise.
Oh, Bustio trying to get away. Ends up getting healed last time, but might not matter. You got Stan just chasing him down. NRG pressuring the GOATs heavily, not distracted at all by who he's self-destruct. And NRG now on the verge of taking point B, but last gasp opportunity coming up here for the GOATs. Dragon Blade ready for Naga, taken down immediately in the blade. It's gone.
Countered right away. Poise got shut down earlier by Naga, but this time it's an even bigger victory for Poise as he's able to shut that blade out. And now it's going to be NRG surging forward. Look at what they've got on the table, but this is a similar situation to what we saw on Dorado. Are we going to see that swap up Boostio going over to the McCree here? And that's not the case, at least not yet. He's sticking to it, this Tracer. And
well, I think Kevster will swap. He just doesn't want to get rid of the Pulse Bomb, where, I mean, it's debatable. Pulse Bomb not the most important of ultimates, but you know, if you get something to pick off here, it could still make it work. That's why you see
find an Anna
going
maybe
for this right now. Going for it.
Yeah, if he gets one of the supports here, this will be huge.
I think he's looking for the Ana right now, holding on to that Pulse Bomb. He's going to let it go. Doesn't let go yet. Getting greedy, just tried to go for the one clip. Wavy not having any of it. Meanwhile, Byram is down. Gets it for the clip, gets a stick on the Brigida. Kevster making it work. The Tracer Gambit paying off for NRG. The exact opportunity they needed. Now Kevster's on cleanup.
Turns out we were wrong. I mean, he was able to get into the back line so perfectly. He knew that Byron, or sorry, not Byron, but Wavy rather, was going to want to sit on that high ground on the Ana. He was ready right there. Wavy was a little bit slow to rotate down to his team, but even when he did, there wasn't much room for him to work with at all. So caught in a bad place and then followed up by the nice pulse bomb Kevster, showing that patience, not throwing out the pulse bomb just for that first kill. That should have been an easy one for him to find, and that it was exactly that.
Boy is going to come out here with the rally. Energy trying to set this one down. Earth Shatter coming in from the Reinhardt. Nomi down immediately. Shatter coming in from Stan doesn't really get too much. And now it's a question of how long can you delay. Nomi probably gets swapped to the Hammond here in a second. Kevster dropping the Pulse Bomb. No Hammond in play. We see Kevster going around the outskirts. Grab in from Smex, follow through, enough to get Wavy. Kevster on one heck of a kill streak right now, 15 players, but nobody doesn't care. Just charges through off the Reinhardt on the respawn, and space has been made for the defense. And now we'll probably see Kevster swap off the Tracer.
Smex coming away with a lot of charge, though. Boostio's letting him out at the moment. Both of these guys are just high on charge. Boostio, of course, the one with the Graviton ready, as Smex didn't find the value. I mean, he connected on the right targets, but didn't have the follow-up with the rest of his team there.
Well, we do have the swap, so NRG will be going for a slightly different approach, but early grab from Boostio. Bio nade to the back, no more healing, no chance of doing anything. Easy connection here for the GOATs, and now, importantly here, Hurix, they've put themselves in a better time bank position.
So important, especially at this point in the matchup where these guys are tied up 1-1. There's a history between these two teams. Of course, as we are on the loser side of the bracket, loser is going home with nothing. And I'm looking at Smex to be the difference maker as we're going to look for a pause here and get it immediately. Again, Tifo just right on it.
If that's Tensa, that's going to be really, really bad for GOATs. Because you look at Tensa right now. Tensa has
it's
sound
Naga,
barrier.
I think.
He's saying 1,000 ping. Okay. I mean, okay, Naga with 1,000 ping is still a better situation than losing a sound barrier, at least assuming that his ping will go back down. Because, you know, Overwatch has a bit of lag compensation into it, up to about, give or take, 200 ping. But 1,000 ping, look, that's super Australia levels there. Like, if you could put Australia on steroids ping-wise, like, I don't know, go to Australia and then, I don't know, go underneath the ocean or something. That's sort of the ping you'd be talking about that he's at. But he's saying it's fine. It's all good. So it looks like we're just going to immediately go to unpause.
All right, Naga saying it's working now. He said he was getting a little bit of a bug where he was going in and out of the spawn because of the lag, but it looks like he's okay. Looks like the ping has gone down, so we should be able to resume here shortly. And good news is that it wasn't Tensa, and they maintain the sound barrier, which is going to be so important here in defending against this next push. I mean, pacing wise, in terms of this Graviton battle, Specs is already at 60% coming away from that last fight. And certainly we need to see some setup beyond that to be able to secure this next one, or else it's going to be Nomi making big plays with Tensa and the sound barrier that is in tow.
NRG looking for an opportunity here. Early nano boost though, gonna be coming out here from Wavy, letting Nomi again just going for it. Self-destruct, making even more room. 2 down already for NRG. And that means the rest can be saved for the GOATs, where time is now really starting to get away from NRG here, Herix.
However, as time is collapsing before them, they are coming online with a couple opportunities here, desperate opportunities maybe at that, but Smek's getting closer. They already took away Nomi's opportunity to get the Earthshatter, so they don't have control on the side of GOATs, and it's all going to be in favor of NRG. It's just about finding the kills.
Knocks down 2 with the Earthshatter, sets the way for NRG. Barrier a little bit slow for Tensa to get the save. Grav out once more for Smex. Cleanup is there. Stand again, just swing the hammer. And now we got Naga with the swap here to the Hammond. We've seen this buy time here, so he's going to wait to the max possible moment. Rolling for it. Oh, immediately gets hacked. A nice shutdown by Kevster. Says, we're not playing that game. We're not going to let you roll around. We're going to just bring this right on in. We're going to extra rounds.
As we go into extra rounds as well, I mean, we have to anticipate what kind of compositions are going to come out. And what I'm looking at is certainly some more robust styling, some compositions that feature heavy tank, heavy support. It should be no surprise. Perhaps some dive that might come out. I mean, these time banks really offer a lot of opportunities for different kinds of things, more dynamic things to be suggested in that team environment, and for these guys to communicate to each other, hey, I want to pull something out. We already know NRG is a team that is capable of playing some unique strategies. I mean, we saw it in Control Center already. If they want to go for that, I mean, maybe not on their attack, as they don't have a lot of time to build into anything. I think really what it comes down to is setting up early, and that's why we're going to see the Sombra more than likely out of them. Interestingly enough, though, there isn't going to be a Sombra for GOATs. They really have liked to play into this Protect the McCree setup. And remember what that means is that, oftentimes you'll see a team adapt by playing a 3-3 style themselves, but NRG has been a little bit slower to make those adjustments in the past. So maybe this is GOATs really playing into that.
I mean, GOATs, they've certainly shown quite a bit of versatility in the game here so far. NRG, while they've been swapping back and forth, nothing has really been executed at a super high level. Where, again, I get it. It's a team that is probably the newest put-together team here, despite the fact that it is an academy team. But now they are on the hot seat. Final minute left here for NRG, and Poise is going Battle Sombra to start things out.
All right, well, we're seeing NRG just waiting for that intel. Poise, it looks like they actually are going to change right out of the gate. So they're just going to go right back there and say, you know what, we don't care about those 20 seconds. Here it is. They're making that change.
Overwatch! GOATs! Okay. It's like, we don't like what we see. What are we going to do? Go GOATs versus GOATs. Three takes, 3 supports. Gonna walk on forward. See where this bad boy goes. Immediately, NRG gonna roll onto the point. Tournament life on the line. And stand 1 falls immediately, gets separated from his team. GOATs was ready for this setup. They isolate NRG down to the final 3 seconds. And it will be a big old goose egg for NRG in terms of progress. Now, they're gonna have to hold off GOATs for an incredibly long period of time on first and not even give up 33%.
I think isolation was the perfect word to describe exactly what happened there. We saw really just kind of like playing into what you were talking about, just not the best execution of the 3-3. I think they took a while to figure out, you know what, we do want to make that change. Let's go ahead and make that adjustment to that new composition, and maybe didn't talk enough about how exactly they want to go onto the point. It seems like it was more about on the approach kind of attack, where they decided, okay, let's go in, let's have some people on stairs. I mean, we even saw the Brigitte stay back on the point, try to get some tried to accrue some score for themselves, but I think winning the point maybe was more important in that scenario, and staying together really was more important. I mean, that's what you see a lot of times with the 3-3, is that it needs to remain cohesive. They need to remain together. As soon as you start pulling apart, you can become isolated, and that's exactly what happens when you're playing against a McCree Brigitte, where they're just going to stun you out, and if you don't have that backup, if you don't have that extra support to set up stuns of your own, you're not going to get much value out of that.
Well, Also, I mean, the moral of the story too is that as much as it's memed on, it does take quite a bit of team skill and coordination to
It
make
does.
a 3-3 work. Like, there's a difference between a good 3-3 and a bad 3-3, and then you have a desperation 3-3, which is eerily how many teams decide to end their tournament lives here in the Overwatch space, and that might be the case here for NRG as Goats working with a lot of time to put them away.
And it's that high ground setup that we saw initially from Goats holding out. Kevster on the McCree, Poise on the Junkrat. Gonna be tough to hold out. Remember, this is all about rotations here. Smex and Stan have a lot on their plate to deal with what is coming their way, and a lot of time to build towards this EMP Nano Blade that Goats has slotted.
And to your point, too, is that you're right. They can just hold off on ults here. They can go for that one good team fight if they don't get an early opportunity here. Naga right now is being, like, very conservative. This is the Genji cardio workout. Climb the wall, shoot the shurikens, climb the wall, shoot the shurikens. But, okay, he's going to get over the wall now. Decide that just messing with D.Va was not the only thing he wanted to do here today. Halt comes in. Goats looking for early pickup. Poise under a bit of pressure. See Naga rotating around the backside. Dashes in through 2. No pickup here just yet. NRG holding strong here so far. A minute. Burned off the clock, but they lose their Mercy. They're not going to have a res here. Specs is demeched. And this is a few cracks in the armor that Goats was looking for.
I'll have to see if they can get the Mercy back quickly. It doesn't look like anybody's pulling out to be able to put... Oh, and they're caught by the Sombra. Halo could go down here to Boostio, and that's another advantage that they have.
This is also Ladder 101. Spawn camp your opponents. Make them angry. The fault that the Mercy getting picked off early. Boostio gets away from that. And oh, Poise. Okay, get a run over 2. Oh, no, not again. Not again. This is cruelty to supports. Boostio hacking Halo. Going for it. Sombra versus Lucio in the back. 1 minute left. He has time for this. He's trying to get away. Is Neil going to get there in time? Just barely. And now he might pay for it. McCree going in. Kevster at the melee. But he still might have time for the EMP. It's just if Naga can get the blade.
I mean, they have time to generate it. It's just about execution here, right? I mean, giving time for the defensive side of NRG to set up, that's going to be crucial. I think if NRG is able to buy themselves some time, certainly Goats wants to give it to them so they can generate that blade, but they might have an opportunity to find value in setting up defensively and being able to shut down Naga.
So they just got to wait at the Deadeye. Boostio's going to have a fantastic opportunity. EMP directly to Naga. This is what you want. EMP out early. Naga in with the blade. 2 quick pickoffs. And NRG will fall to the Goats as the Goats try and capture lightning in the bottle here once more and make another run through the lower bracket of the Overwatch Beat Invitational. The Goats move on. NRG goes home.
No Savior Riptire for them available at that stage, and Naga closes it out. The cardio warmed him up just enough for that blade at the very end.
No doubt about it. And credit creds to Boostio. Definitely showing a lot of mechanical skill here, though. That one, that's a little bit more standard. It's like, I'll toss it a grab, find a few people. We'll go.
I mean, great play all around, though. Yes, we do see NRG dipping out, but honestly, very well played by Goats. And again, this is 2 very distinctly different teams than what we saw last season of Beat and continuing on from there. So, there's a lot of new players. There's a lot of different things that they have to work out. So certainly over time, I think whoever wound up winning this, they would look a lot better as things went on and they got more scrim time, or rather not scrim time, but more tournament time, more play together. That's so pivotal in these matchups.
Well, we do have some replays here from what we saw here, and Boostio, again, an X factor the entire time, where you definitely do see that he's sort of on that precipice of playing a lot of ladder games to playing in the comp, but sometimes those tactics work, and Widow is great, and also Naga, reliable with most blades.
I mean, when you're so mechanically proficient, you can pull those kind of plays off, right? I mean, that's exactly what they allow him to do, and they allow him to take those mirror matchups where a lot of teams would be like, no, we're going to counter comp, we're going to go for this the strategic way instead of going the way of the Goats, which is now trying to mechanically outskill your opponents through DPS, which is not the same Goats that we're used to seeing historically.
Yeah, also, I'm just going to point out the irony of how NRG went out here, the ever classic, ever tasteful. How did you lose in the tournament? Well, what was the last composition you ran? It was that situation where we ran Goats. against GOATs.
I mean, it
And we
makes
lost.
sense. It makes sense that they pulled it out against the composition that they tried to go into. It's just the execution wasn't right. I mean, they needed to make sure that they stuck together. Brigitte was off on her own island, and that's a problem, especially when you're trying to execute into a comp that it has innate stunts. I mean, you're talking about Brigitte, McCree having the ability to pull back and just catch everybody inside of that one little hallway where you can just press down on those stun buttons, and all of a sudden you have the advantage because of the CC.
And also, so it might sound like being a little bit harsh on NRG here. Let's give them their due on at least the very basis of it's pretty obvious this is a new team. NRG had a lot of players leave to the pastures of OWL, where of course Rascal got picked up by the Shock, and you're wondering where everything else is going. So, I mean, realistically speaking, it makes sense, right? That you've had change-ups here for the team. It's going to be something in progress. The NRG we saw here probably is not the final NRG we will see Contender Season 3. So this tournament for NRG was sort of a temperature testing, right? Where how are your players doing? How are they really going in? And, look, that's just part of the process. It would have been nice for them, of course, if they could have won here, but they are aiming for some higher goals.
And I think honestly, the big takeaways is what they did right. And there was a lot that they did right too. I mean, looking at the way that they operated with Kevster, I think the synergy between Poise and Kevster is starting to come online as well, where we're seeing, especially on control maps, their ability to fight those out, duke those out. I mean, they looked quite dominant on control, especially on Lijiang Tower, and they have looked fairly solid on that throughout this tournament. So I think going forward, they tried to find a way to pull that out, extract that information. How is that working? What do we need to do to, duplicate that on other types of maps? And if we see them have that kind of success elsewhere, they're going to be a really dominant team going into the next season of Contenders.
All right, guys. Well, we do have to take a quick break. When we come back, the lower bracket goes on. We're going to have phase 2, coached by Coach Michael, taking on the Sky Foxes. You won't want to miss it.